with the music, the testimonies. Lock me up in a prison and throw away the key. Take away the vision from these eyes that now can see. Deprive me of the food I eat, and even bind my hands and feet. But as long as I know Jesus, then I can still go free. That I could still go free. What kind of man would reach down his hand and do this for me? Oh, unworthy to live, not fit to kill. The man on the cross puts me in his will and says that I could still go free. Well, I never could quite understand why He would want to leave His throne to don the robe of an earthly man, feel the pain of flesh and bone, then to later trod a lonely path that led to Calvary, where the blood red stains, they broke all of the chains, that I could still go free, that I could still go free. What kind of man would reach down his hand and do this for me? Oh, unworthy to live and not fit to kill, then a man on the cross puts me in his will and says that I could still go free. His life for mine. Very powerful. Um, Satan does a pretty good job trying to get you to forget about that, doesn't he? Trying to get you to just take that for granted. Trying to get you to think, well, it wasn't really that bad. And you know what we have the ability to do is we kind of make everything physical, right? So a lot of times you may think about the death of Christ, you think, oh, what a terrible death it was. Well, no doubt it was a terrible death. It was punishment, and it was a terrible death, but it isn't the physical part of that terrible death that is what Christ dreaded in the garden. But it was the taking on your sin and my sin. And what does sin do? It separates us from God. And so that was the terrible part. Sister Regina just said earlier, she knows somebody that needs healed but needs to be saved more than they need to be healed. And it's a shame, but a lot of times the church world doesn't even look at it that way. They just think, God heal them, God heal them, God heal them. And if God healed them and they lived to be 150 and died lost and spent eternity separated from God, what good did it do for God to heal them? But God works on people in His time, not ours. It is difficult to believe sometimes that people aren't really dealt with. Sometimes they may be 70 or 80 years old before God ever speaks to them. And especially if you've went to church for years, it may be difficult for you to believe that. Maybe the person wasn't in the right place, wasn't in the right position, didn't hear. But certain things through one's life will finally get to them. Does that mean everybody will be saved? No, but I believe it means we will have an opportunity to be saved. Well, I'm going to read from the book of John today. If you want to read with me in chapter 8 of the book of John. Church looks nice. Walls been painted. Nice. I can't help it. I'm just one of those people that like to just, I may not look like it in appearance, but if something's off, I just like to kind of, Ten Commandments is off. We'll get to that later, but it's just like, not blaming anybody. I'm just saying it is what it is. Teresa will be in bed. I'll walk through the house and see a picture and back up and go. Take the corner of it away. I don't know why, but most people are off of the Ten Commandments. So there you go. The Ten Commandments being off, I meant just cricket. Our society today, most people ain't living by that anyhow, right? So, all right, John chapter 8. This is not something you've never heard before, but can you? Do you ever see someone getting bullied and finally the person just comes back, stands up, and just speaks their mind? And sometimes we consider it to be bullied because you look at the person in context that is speaking to them or speaking against them. We know that Jesus was meek, mild, but he was not a floor mat for people to wipe their feet on. And every once in a while, they would find that out. And although he did lay his life down, still, he is king. He was king when he came, and he is king, and he will be king when he returns. Amen. But there's a place in the book of John here that I'm going to read to you that actually just going over it again, sitting here listening to the choir sing, I had to get just a little clip of the choir. I know it's going to be online after a while, but just a little clip of it because I was thinking, man, they're just doing so good today, and they just look so happy. All of y'all just looked so happy today. So pretty good. If you were faking it, you did pretty good. But as I was sitting there and I read across this piece of scripture, I kind of chuckled out loud. You hate to use someone else as an illustration and say, okay, if it was an actor in a movie, this would be who it would be. So I'm not going to do that. But you've all heard somebody step up And finally, they've had all they can take. There again, all I can stand and I can't stand no more. And finally, boom, they just let it out. Well, Jesus, I may do that, and that may be because I'm trying to be nice and holding back and finally explode. Jesus, I believe, was timing his laser beams, his missiles. He knew exactly. Can you imagine standing and arguing with the one that hung the moon and the stars? But anyhow, in the book of John, in chapter 8, and I'll just start with verse 41. 8 and 41. You do the deeds of your father. Then said they to him, we have not been born of fornication. We have one Father, even God. Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech, even because you cannot hear my word? Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it. Because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not. Which of you convinceth me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do ye not believe me? He that is of God heareth God's words. Ye therefore hear them not, because ye are not of God. That's stirring them up, isn't it? Putting them in their place, isn't it? I don't think they're paying attention to anybody else other than him. They're listening to exactly what he's saying. These aren't the low-life individuals in the community, but these are the top dog people, right? And he says, then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast the devil? Now they're calling him a Samaritan now. Here they're getting into slurs with him. Jesus answered, I have not a devil, but I honor my Father, and ye do dishonor me. And I seek not mine own glory. There is one that seeketh and judgeth. Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my saying, he shall never see death. Then said the Jews unto him, now we know that thou hast a devil. Abraham is dead, and the prophets, and thou sayest, if a man keep my saying, he shall never taste of death. Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Whom makest thou thyself? Jesus answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your God. Yet ye have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say I know him not, I should be a liar, like unto you. That's where I chuckled out loud, because I just thought, have you ever said that to someone? I'm not a liar like you. Here's Jesus saying it. If I would tell you I didn't know God, I'd be a liar like you are. Or to put it in the slang term now, I'd be a liar like you are, because your daddy is not God. He's the devil. He's the liar and the father of it. And then verse 56 says, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Then said the Jews unto him, thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. And then took they up stones to cast at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. Now, when he made that statement, we know today from looking at it, but who else knew what he was saying? When Jesus said, Abraham looked for my day and rejoiced to see it and was glad. The Jews said, you're not even 50 years old, and you're telling us that Abraham was glad? Now we know you have a devil. Jesus said, Before Abraham was, I am. What did God say when Moses said, who shall I say sent me? God said, just say, I am sent me. And so what Jesus was saying was something that those people standing around knew exactly. He wasn't beating around the bush. They knew exactly what he was saying. As we know today, they know more than what we did because they knew that was the reference that Moses gave when he went down to Egypt and told Pharaoh to let my people go. So the Jews knew exactly. They readily understood who I am was. They knew that Jesus was proclaiming to be God. They picked up stones. They were willing to kill him, to come at him. What does that have to do with us? Do you see what's happened in the beginning of this chapter? You find that there is a woman that is brought to Jesus, and we know the story well. She is brought to him, and she is taken in the very act of adultery, and as she is brought to him, she is cast down, and it may have been some of these very men that were there later in this chapter, but they stood around her. And they said this woman was taken in the act of adultery, in the very act of it. They made sure that he knew that, in the very act of it. So, they're painting a pretty good picture for him. And we know what the law says. Now, what do you say? And so they were ready to stone her. This whole chapter 8, you find that there is Satan rising up. There is evil rising up against good. And guess what? The good guy may not always look like he wins. It may not always look like he's a winner, but he is a winner. And it may not, as Teresa said and some others have said, it may not always look like you are the winner. There may be times where you go through things that you think, God, what I thought it was going to be easier than this. God, what in the world's going on? But the next thing you know, you're going through something that is difficult. Maybe nobody understands it, nobody around. You watch, I say this probably weekly, but each one of us in here carry a different load. I don't know what you go through. You may not have a financial care in the world, and the person sitting on the pew next to you may be destitute of just about everything but gas money to get here and a vehicle that barely runs to make it. I don't know. I'm just saying that sometimes our problems are different than the person that sits in the church house next to you, but there are problems, and they're real problems if they're your problem. I said here a while back, but Bob Wolf used to say over there at Lombardsville, if you're praying for your dog, if you're praying for your cat, if it means something to you, it means something to Jesus. And so whatever the problem is or the concern is today, if it means something to you and is bothersome to you, Satan could come to you and say, look at you, you're the loser. This isn't doing you any good. What do you think people say that sometimes? They say, well, I tried that going to church thing. That didn't work for me. I tried that religion thing. That didn't work for me. I would suggest don't try going to church and don't try religion. Try getting saved. And when you get, and it's only when you truly have been born again. See, we're young at this. And we're born again. We're babies. We start growing. Our knowledge starts to increase. And then we can look back to where we have been. I don't know about you, but I can't remember when I was 1 year old. I can't remember probably when I was 2 years old. I don't know when my most current memory would have been from the time I was born up until the time I could remember today. But whatever it was, it took some time. And getting saved, it takes a while for us to grow. We're saved instantaneously. I was born again the moment I asked the Lord into my heart, and the moment I repented of my sin, I was born again. So that birth took place. But it took a while for some things to catch on. That's growing in grace and knowledge. You grow, you mature, you are a disciple. It'd be like a child dying at 6 months old, at 1 year old. They're not getting to the point where they know and they can grow and they can learn and just all gone. And that's what happens when people get saved. They say, well, it didn't really do anything for me. Sometimes it's like we expect that God's going to just, poof, there it is and it happens. Or our life is going to be fantastic and never have trouble. I just say a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, I was talking and said, sometimes we blame the devil for the nail in the road or the tire that goes flat on us. Well, guess what? Our kids weren't here that evening because they went out to get in their vehicle to come. They had a flat tire. Those things happen to people. Yeah, that's right. Your loved one gets dementia. You're the caregiver. Your husband or your wife has cancer. One of your children, God forbid, or your spouse passes, or your grandchildren. A couple of your kids are strung out on drugs. A couple of people in your family you thought were going to be the best workers for God ever disowned them and disowned you and disowned God and out doing their thing and running like the devil. And Satan comes and sits right down next to you and says, you're wasting your time. And those are big things compared to maybe what some of you are going through today. Those are big things. Death and drug-addicted family members and those kind of things, those are big. Whatever it is, Satan's going to make it explode. He's going to make it so much bigger in your eyes. And it's going to be like, oh, I don't know, I can barely make it. And I understand that because I've had feelings like that before too. It's almost like you have to turn all Carrie Underwood and say, Jesus, take the wheel. It's yours. I can't do anything with it anymore. And sometimes that's what the Lord's wanting to do. Should I tell him, Teresa, we were on our way here today. Don't worry, baby, it ain't nothing against you. It's all against me. But I asked her for something. We're driving down the road, listening to Kneel to Cross on the way to church, just good little Christians like we ought to be, right? And so here we're coming. And I forget what it was. And I said, but can you give me something? I don't know if it was in the glove compartment or whatever. Well, anyhow, it's just like, here, you want me to take the wheel? And I wouldn't let her take the wheel. I'm like, I got it. I'm a man. I can do two things at one time, drive with my knees and do whatever. But anyhow, here I am, and she said, oh, I guess you don't want me to take the wheel then. That's how we are sometimes with the Lord, right? We want to give it to God. We don't really want him to take over, period. We just want it to be done. We really want to keep our hands on it. We really want to go through all the struggle with it. We really want to work it out. And no, we really don't. Somebody says, no, I really don't want to. I just want it to be over with. But then how come when he tries to straighten it up, we grab back for it? How come when Satan comes and tells you your life is a mess, this is bad, this is terrible, this is Satan's way. Because he is a liar and a father of it. So he tell you all these lies. Have a whole string of lies. A whole string of them. You name it, he's got them. I don't care if your cat's healthy, he'll tell you your cat's going to die tomorrow. Your dog's going to get sick. Your husband or wife's ugly. Your kids ain't going to make it in life. He'll tell you all kinds of things. He'd just lie to you. He'd try to beat you down. He's trying to add one stone on another stone on another stone. And finally, somewhere along there, the Lord gives us strength to say, okay, I'm not going to believe that stuff anymore. And where does that strength come from? Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Satan is not your daddy anymore. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to listen to him. He is a liar. He's never told the truth in the first place. He's not going to start now. So when he comes and sits down beside you and says, you can't sing worth a dime. You don't need to be singing in the choir. I'm saying to you, get in the choir and belt it out. I don't care if you think he doesn't like it. Do it anyhow. He will tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that. He is a liar. Amen. And don't take my word at it. Take his word at it. Take Jesus' word at it. As Jesus begins to put these folks in their place. It's like being in a courtroom and arguing with the one who made the law. Who made it, wrote it, there it is. He presented it, and here they are arguing against him. You ain't nothing but a Samaritan. And Jesus said, yeah, and you ain't nothing but a liar, just like your daddy. And I'm glad I ain't like you. Take that. And what they do? They picked up stones to stone him. So is it going to be easy? You think it's going to be easy when Satan comes? It ain't going to be easy. They know where in the Word of God it says it's going to be easy. Will it be worth it someday? Yes, but here's the thing. The first part of the chapter, when you're looking at the physical condition of the woman, they're going to stone her. They're going to stone her. At the end of the chapter, they're going to stone the one who forgave her. They're going after him. So in the beginning of the chapter, they're going after flesh and blood. At the end of the chapter, they're going after God in the flesh. They're going after your only salvation, your only protection. After he stands for you, Satan can't destroy God. So what does he do? He reverses. He can't get to God, so he comes at you. And he'll try, and he'll try. If you are discouraged this morning, I will say to you, he will continue to come. He will continue to come at you. And you don't want to hear this probably, but some of you may die without seeing your loved one that you prayed for years come to the Lord. It may happen. This is a public record. If you're on Facebook, you could read it. But the young 10-year-old boy that just passed away, if you see some of the things that have been shared, the boy's father, who I'm supposing that he did not live with the father, but the boy had been begging him to go to church with him. But he did not go. But he said that he would go now. The boy's gone. He's gone to be with the Lord. The daddy wasn't saved when he left. That may happen to you. But doesn't mean God's not hearing those prayers now. See, with God, it's not like, I better answer this because they're going to not be here before long, and it's about 7 minutes till 11. God's timetable isn't like that. And so it's going to go on. There may be things that you've expected to see in your life that you may never see. Some things you think your life would be so much easier if this would happen. And that may never happen. How many of you think it'd be easier to be rich? What is rich anyhow? Other than the one back up in the eagle's nest up there videoing us, right? Yeah, somebody said we are rich. Well, we are. But do we look at it that way? And see, our Christianese, that's language, right? Our Christian language, our Christian terminology, our Christian attitude starts to come out when we say, I am rich, I need nothing else but God. And so the bank comes and takes your car. And they repossess your house. Or the mortgage is up, nope, everything gone. Then what? If we're not careful, we said, we're rich, we need nothing but God. Oh, but wait a minute, God. So what is rich to us? Sometimes to a person who has never had nothing. And I've talked to a few people. I mean, I look at our pictures of when Teresa and I were growing up, and I look at the home, and I remember in my memory the setting of our home, and I know what my dad brought in as an income for a family of 6, and I just think to myself, man, we were poor. But then there had to be people around us that were worse than we were. And I look at that, and in my mind, we didn't have what we wanted. Yet how in the world could 4 kids, every one coming up, get a car? They didn't go to Glockner's and pick one off the lot. I work community action. My dad said, we're going to buy you this car. Okay, I work in community action. He goes out and buys an old Ford Falcon. And like, come on, no, I don't want that thing. My sister had a Chevette. You remember those? I'm big enough now I can stick one on one foot and one on the other and use them as roller skates, right? And so I could think, well, we were poor. We don't have nothing. I don't know, not to try to be too funny. We left Myrtle Beach. Teresa making better money than she'd ever made in her life. She was my sugar mama, right? We were down there, I was working, and we just, if you couldn't tell when I come back, it's like living on vacation. I mean, every evening, like, I don't want to cook. Where are we going to dinner tonight? I mean, there's 1,000,001 restaurants down there, and you could tell when I came back, I had lived in 1,000,001 restaurants. And so when he came back here, she's watching the kids and stuff, and so we made the decision that she wouldn't work. She'd go from having a sugar mommy to having a broke mommy, and that's like, I come home and say, what are we having for dinner? Well, we got some dry spaghetti in there. No. But we were sitting and talking last night, and she well, once I say it, it'll go like wild anyhow. But someone mentioned to her about working, about going back to work with daycare, with children, preschool and stuff, and so we've been praying about some things, and we're sitting talking the other evening, thinking like, we're not poor. We just don't have the luxury of what we had when we lived there, but we're not poor. We're not rich, but we're not poor. We're squeaking, right? And so we were talking and I know this is a long illustration, but we got up this morning and we were getting ready to walk out the door, and she said, "Oh, I saw this pretty little wreath, Christmas wreath that I would like to buy." And I said, "Well, I guess you got your answer then, right? If you're going to buy anything, you're going to work, girl." But sometimes you just think, sometimes Satan comes, and if it's your finances, pounces on it. If it's your health, pounces on it. Oh no, I'm not just sick, I got pneumonia. Poof, pounce on it. Can't go to church for 4 or 5 services. Jumps on that. Every little thing he can make you feel like a dirty dog, he'll do. But Jesus comes up and says, back off. And he puts them, not only does he put the people in the beginning of chapter 8 in their place, and he says, you that are without sin, you cast the first stone at her. Not to put words in his mouth, but he could have said, come on, big boy, throw one. Yeah, you're with sin. I know you. I know all about you. I guess what I'm trying to tell you this morning is you have someone that has your back. And it was never Satan. You have a heavenly Father that loved you so much that he sent his son to die for you. So when times are hard, still remember you are a child of the King. You are a child of the King. It's been said here, bounced back and forth through the whole service. Someone even used the word royalty. You are royalty. You are a child of the King. Don't get the big head. Don't get the big head now, because it wasn't anything you did. Your parents didn't bring you into the world with a silver spoon in your mouth, and if they did, they couldn't get you to heaven. If you had it made from birth, they still couldn't get you to heaven. That's him. So protection in the first part of chapter 8, he's protecting her from being physically killed, and then gives her life and says, go and sin no more. And then at the end of it, confrontation with probably some of the same fellows, said, you guys don't even have a clue. Before Abraham was, I am. And they're ready to kill him. But what is he doing? He's taking a stand, making it known. He knows who he is. We need to know who he is. But if we're saved, he said, I will come. Me and the Father are one. We will come and make our abode in you. You know why they did not understand his words? Jesus gave them the answer. You don't even understand what I'm saying. And do you know why you don't understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot hear me. You are of your father, the devil, and the father, the children of God, hear their father. What does Jesus say? My sheep know my voice. Another they won't follow. These people didn't have a clue what Jesus was talking about. They thought he was talking physical on a lot of this, but he wasn't. It was spiritual. Well, why couldn't they understand it? Because they were carnally minded. They could not understand it. I don't know if there's a whole lot of carnally minded things that Christ dealt with when he was here that could have been more impactful to me as I read this than this, that these people stand right there and it's a spiritual argument and they're trying to throw physical condition in. Well, hey, our father was Abraham. You could have been like, good for you, my daddy's God. But you don't understand that because you don't have that relationship with him. Well, I say to you, God's got your back, right? Satan's a liar, God's got your back. Doesn't mean you won't be in trouble. Brother BJ messaged me, flat on his back, a couple days in the bed, trying to get him to the doctor, flat on his back, not able to do anything. Love to be with you, Brother George. You know, people, you could start naming people. Don't think I don't do this. I mean, like, our bottom line is I want to see people saved, but, you know, people can't get saved if they don't come in here lost, right? We all know that, right? It's like you could fish in a huge lake, but if there are no fish in it, you ain't catching nothing. Pretty simple. So when I come in, do I switch gears? Oh, wait a minute, no lost in here. No, I just try to go with whatever God has, because I don't really know your heart either. But my thing is to see people spiritually invigorated, to see them grow, to see the desire to be in the house of the Lord, to be there, to want to be there, not just to do certain things in the church, even if you don't do anything, but just come and sit. I just want you to be excited, as some would say, on fire. Do you have to run and wave a hanky? No, you don't have to. Nope. If you shouted, you might scare someone in here. I don't know. Know about that, don't we? Yeah, Miss Kathy's father-in-law, man, he'd scare the daylights out of you. He'd scare the daylights out of a Pentecostal preacher. He'd be sitting right. Tom Harness, did anybody know him? Tom would be, yeah, old Tom, he'd be in church, man. And I'd be sitting up front watching him. And I'd be thinking, you're going to be sorry you're sleeping right in front of him. I guarantee it in a minute. Janitor, come and clean up on aisle, whatever, because they're like, ah! God is good to us. Stand with me if you will. Maybe you're here and you have a need. Maybe you've been beat down and you need some prayer. And if that's the case, please do come and let us pray with you this morning. Sister Connie, yeah, would you come to the piano? We're going to sing. And this time I want you to sing with us, all right? I want you to sing page 81 with us, because, like I said, we don't know where you are. I don't know where your heart is, but God wants you to come as you are. Whatever your need is or concern, He has the answer for that. Of God I come, just as I am, and waiting not to rid my soul of what to thee, whose blood All right. Well, Teresa and I are going to go get stuffed at a homecoming. That's better than getting stuck at the taxidermy office, right? But we're going to go get stuffed over at a homecoming. I got to preach afternoon service for Rehoboth, so we'll be leaving after service here and going there. And tonight I will be here, but I had the pleasure of asking Zach Stevens if he took short notice calls, and he said, "Yeah." Well, I've never heard him preach. I've listened to him a little online, and so he's going to be here tonight and preaching for us. So come back and be with us at 6 o'clock if you can. Anything else we need to announce?
Been a great place, George.
Yeah.
Been a good service today. God has blessed us. The Lord's coming.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. See ya. Sunday school. Right now.